And the first thing I'm going to use with this is polyurethane clear resin. Again, it's from MB Resin, and I will put the link in the description box below. Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Wendy here from Toonpish Crafts, and I hope you're doing okay. It's been a long time coming, but I finally managed to get the dragon moulds out. And I can't wait to show you how these came out. Spoiler, I love them, but then they're dragons, so I would, wouldn't I? I've done 3 different moulds in 3 different ways, with the end result being 3 different things. So you got 3 different everything here. And if you like dragons like me, I hope you enjoy this, because I absolutely adore them and it's been too long coming. So this is the first mould I'm using. They are all really cheap moulds. You can get them in several places, I would imagine. These come from Temu, but I know a lot of people don't shop on Temu. It's a dragon, and I'm desperately in need of dragons in my life at the moment. Now, this method is one I use a lot. You colour the mould and then you fill the mould. You've seen me doing this plenty of times. I'm not going to put you through the whole process with the whole mould, but if you do want more detail on this way of colouring, I will link a video in the top right hand corner that will help you understand how to do it. These are the Tiny Turner colours. You know I use them a lot. They are stunning, and I want to fill this mould with the Tiny Turner colours. I cleaned up with a baby wipe just generally, and then I'm using alcohol on cotton buds to clean up the fine detail. I just want to say a quick hello and welcome to all my new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed already, maybe you would consider it. It doesn't cost anything and it would help my channel out immensely. And when I'm happy that the mould is clean of the first colour, then I move on to the second colour. Now, I have got rid of some of the colour in the mouth area because I realised the detail of the mould was just one top beak. So the rest is going to be a different colour, and I'm moving on to Starlight. Starlight is a ghost pigment. It looks totally different with black behind or with white behind, but what I like about Starlight is it's a gold colour, and even if you put black behind it, which it does let you, it is still gold, and it is bright and colourful even with black. That's one of the reasons I absolutely love the ghost pigments, because you can get bright colours next to dark colours that are all chameleon, and you only have to have black behind them. That makes life very simple and you get amazing dramatic effects. Once I've done the Starlight everywhere I want to do it, again I have a little clean up and then I move on to the next colour. Before I move on to the next large colour, I'm going to use black in the iris. To do that and to get the black exactly where I want, I'm mixing it with a tiny bit of isopropyl alcohol on a paintbrush, and I can paint it exactly where I want it. I'm also going to do the same with the colour of the eye, and I'm going to use alchemy for that, just inside the eye area, so that the eye is definitely a different colour than the rest of the body. I think if you've got the eye right, you've got the dragon right. If you've got the eye right, you've got any animal right. The eye is the most important part. And with something this small, you kind of dot the colour on. You don't brush it like you would paint. You kind of dot it in the area and let it sit there. Don't you love the way this colour sparkles? Let it dry and then I move on to Inferno. Inferno is a bronzy colour, and I just figured that, again, I want bright colours for this. And this bronze, beautiful ginger colour is so bright and vibrant, and it's going to bring this dragon to life, I think. So I use Inferno on the rest of the mould. Doesn't matter if I go over the top of any of the colours that are there. It may change the colour slightly, but it won't do any detrimental damage. Whatever colour you put down on a mould first is the colour you'll see when you turn it out. Anything behind it may change the shade slightly but won't change the colour. But I'm really happy with the colour of this. It's weird how that Stylight looks blue when it's on a white mould. It really isn't. And I'm also just going to highlight the scales under the belly. And hopefully that will give some kind of shadow when it comes out of the mould. That's the plan. And I'm happy how it's going so far. Now, as I'm making 3 makes, I can't spend too much time or room on 3 different moulds in the small area that I've got. So I'm going to use polyurethane black resin. This polyurethane comes from MB Resin, and I will put their link in the description box below, but I'm sure you can get black polyurethane wherever you are. This company ships to the UK easily and it's a good price, so I use it. But I think they only ship to UK and Northern Ireland due to the hazardous chemicals they sell. You only get 30 seconds to stir it, so as soon as I've stirred it, I pour it into the mould. Now, as I said, this mould is a cheap mould. I love the design, but it's not going to be perfect for resin. It's slightly wonky. The tail is facing down, so I do have to prop up the tail, and I actually use a lollipop stick off camera so that the resin doesn't pour out of the tail's end. I'm making sure I've got every little place filled with resin by using a micro brush, which I've taken a brush from, and you can use hot air but not an open flame on polyurethane. You can use a hot air to get rid of bubbles or isopropyl alcohol. Now, polyurethane resin only takes 40 minutes to cure. I have left this for about an hour because I was off doing dinner or something. But when I'm happy that it's cured up, I'm going to demould it. And I can't wait to see this. I absolutely love colouring moulds. It's one of my favourite things to do because you can put the colour exactly where you want and the results can be amazing. Wow, wonderful. Personally, I love it. I love the colour combination. That starlight gold is just phenomenal on something like this. When you've got dark colours with it, I just absolutely love it. The blue eye just works and I'm happy with that. But I'm not going to leave it as it is. I'm going to make it into something else. In the meantime, I'm going to make mould number 2. And the first thing I'm going to use with this is polyurethane clear resin. Again, it's from MB Resin and I will put the link in the description box below. The clear is more expensive than the black, but if you're short on time, then it can be great to use. And as I said, I have limited space. I'm doing 3 makes and I can't give the room for them each with 2-part epoxy resin. At this time, I have other projects on the go too. You mix it for 30 seconds and it does go from cloudy to clear very quickly. The mixing ratio for this is 100 to 120, which is why I chose to do 100 to 120. I did end up having too much. for this mould, and as I needed it for the next one, I poured it into the next mould, and I'll show you that on the last make. And I'm going to fill this mould with the clear about 3/4 full. Now I left this for about half an hour. It gave it enough time to solidify, but it's still tacky. And because it's tacky, I can now put some colour on the back and it will hold that colour in nicely. Again, I'm using the same colours as I did in the previous make. I didn't want to get too complicated throwing in new colours all over the place, so I'm using the same colours and hopefully getting slightly different results. But this time I'm not colouring the mould, I'm just colouring the resin that I've poured into the mould. So I'm just following the detail of the mould and colouring clear, flat resin, hoping that I'm colouring the right sort of area. Now heads up, I did actually go over a little bit too far with the Inferno. I thought I would blend it into a clear or gold area, but I went too far. So if you're going to do this method, try to get the colour over the top of the detail underneath. You can see through the clear resin, you should be able to see the detail of the mould. I'm colouring this at an angle because you're seeing straight down and I'm off to one side. So I missed where the detail was slightly. I don't quite know why I did that. In my head I was thinking, and let's just blend it with the next colour, but it didn't quite work that way. When I got to the starlight, the colour had already gone too far over the area that I wanted to colour, and you'll see the results later. I mean, I do like them a lot, but like I said, I had to adapt this when it came out because I coloured it too far. You'll see what I mean later on. Don't forget, all these colours are available on toonpish.com, together with all my discount codes. If you're looking for a discount code, I have a discount code section. When it's completely covered, I mixed up a small amount of polyurethane black and I just poured that over the top of the colour. Just about made enough. I always say only make the small amount to start with, because if you make too much it's going to go off and you're not going to have anywhere to use it. So make a small amount. Just about had enough. And again, I used the heat gun to get rid of any bubbles, but you can use isopropyl alcohol. I did leave this piece about 2 hours before I demoulded because the polyurethane resin was really thin and I figured I'd give it extra time to really solidify. I got a bit distracted here by the overpour and I like to clear that up before I see the finished piece, but I gave up. I'll sort that out later. But when I turn it round, you can see how bright those colours are. Because it has clear in front of it, it really brings out the brightness of those colours. But you can see where I overcoloured it around the claw area and I was not happy with that at all. Moving on to the third mould, and this mould again I'm using clear polyurethane resin, but I'm only pouring it into the deep areas around the outside, whereas the lip, that's getting clear resin in the deep recesses of the mould. This is mould number 3. It's a very peculiar mould, but I wanted to see how it would come out and I have a plan for this mould. So I'm just using up what clear polyurethane I had from the first pour. So this will be a 50/50 mould. So this third mould is only half full with clear resin. So some of the silicone is exposed and can be coloured like I did with the first make, but parts of it are flat clear resin. So if you make sure you're aiming for the right parts to colour, you get a very different effect when you turn it out. Now these are something that I've been trying out recently. I've been trying them for a few months. They are sticky ear cleaners. I just thought they might work quite well for taking off mica where you don't want it. And I've been using the same one for about 3 months and it's still sticky. Basically, you can clean these little sticky earbuds off with a baby wipe and it gets rid of the mica, but they stay sticky. And I bought a whole pack of these thinking, well, you know, if I can only use them once, at least I can get into some detail sometimes. But I've been using exactly the same one for over 3 months, never gone on to another earbud. I wipe it off, it stays sticky, and at the end of it I put it back into the box. So they're really worth using. They can take off high points and small details They won't get into really, really tight areas, but they're okay. They work on some occasions. I just thought I'd share that with you. But as you can see, it's taken off the high parts and it left the lower parts in this quite shallow detailed mould. So now I have some cleaned off areas I can put a different colour on over the back. This is going to give me a subtle effect on the front. I'm sticking with the same colours as I did for the other two makes, just so that I can keep in keeping with each other. I've already used Starlight, so this is Alchemy and the other is Elixir. So because this mould is half full, it's going to give a different definition to the piece than either of the first two. We have one that's completely covered in mica, we have one that's fully covered in clear, and this one is a half and half. I think it's worth trying different ways to do the same mould. I know I'm using 3 different moulds here, and I'm going to end up with 3 different makes. But you could do all 3 ways on the same mould. 3 totally different ways to colour resin. So once the black has cured, I can demould and see what we've got. I'm looking forward to this one. That Starlight is just so bright and colourful. You can see the mottled colour underneath, and I really like that. There's kind of a hint of colour, but the glass-like front of the pieces just makes it so shiny. This is a very odd shield and a very odd mould, but I do have plans for this too. So for the first dragon, I've cut some wood and I've painted it black. I then put it into my xTool M1 Ultra and I engraved some words into the black paint to reveal the wood behind. I chose a font that looked like it'd been scratched by a dragon, and I think that worked well. And I only engraved the left hand side and left room for the dragon to be stuck to it on the right hand side. So the wording isn't actually engraved, it's more like it's taken the paint off, but I think that came out stunning. I absolutely love the way this has come out, and this has gone to a friend for a present for a birthday. I think any dragon lover would love that hanging in their room. I would anyway. So the second make, I decided to sand down the shiny area underneath the dragon around the heart to disguise my error in colouring, and I think it came out absolutely beautiful. I'm leaving this one as a piece of art to go on the wall, and I do love it. And finally, the shield had plans all along. I bought a door knocker from Amazon. I've drilled holes and I chiselled out a little bit of the resin to make the door knocker fit. I've carved a piece of wood and I created this shield door knocker, and I think it works wonderfully. 3 moulds, 3 makes and 3 ways to use those makes, and I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I've thoroughly enjoyed making them and I love the results. Come back and see me next week, because you never know what I'm going to be up to. I never know what I'm going to be up to. Have a great week, happy crafting, and bye for now.